Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's Go tutorial, we will be discussing about functions in Go. So what is a function? A function is a block of code that performs a particular task and that can be reused. So I feel like that this definition is really self-explanatory. A function is a block of code that performs a particular task and which can be reused. That means the function can be called any number of times that we want in our program. And throughout this Go series, we have been making use of one very special function, which is called the main function. So let us now quickly head on over to the playground and analyze the main function. So to begin our discussion on functions, we head back to the playground and here we see a very simple function called the function main, declared within the main package. Now this main function is a very special function. Why is it so? Well, that is because each and every Go application or program requires an entry point, and the main function within the main package serves as the entry point of the Go application by default. So let me show you. Suppose this function was called main1 instead of main, and I try to run this. The compiler will tell me that function main is undeclared in the main package. Let's correct this and let me call the package main1, and it again tells me that package name must be main. So let's revert it and run this, and our program runs perfectly. Also note that the main function neither takes any arguments nor does it return any values. Let us try to now analyze the structure of a function in Go. So a function declaration starts with the func keyword. This is the keyword that tells the Go compiler that we are trying to declare a function. Next, we give the name to a function. In this case, we give the name of main. Now, the name of a function can be any valid variable in Go. And like variables, the visibility of this particular function outside of this package will depend on whether the first character in the name of the function is an uppercase character or a lowercase character, which means that a function name which starts with a lowercase letter will be internal to the package in which it is declared, whereas a function which is named with starting with an uppercase letter will be exported or public from within this package, which means that other packages can also make use of this function. For now, let us let it be as we found it. After the func keyword as well as the name of the function, we have a set of round brackets. Now, within this round brackets, the function can accept arguments. In fact, let me show you by declaring a very simple function called print. So I say func print, and then I will say that this function accepts an argument s of type string. Then I will open up the body of this function. The function body is whatever lines we write within these curly braces. And as for the new function we just declared here, let it just print the string s. So till now we discussed the use of the func keyword, the naming convention of the function name, and how does a function take arguments as well as the function body. Let us now try to call this function. So I'll get rid of this line from within the function main and I will simply make a call to the print function with a string, let's say hello from function. And when I try to run this, we see that our string hello from function gets printed. So what is it that just happened here? Well, our Go application started by running the main function, and within the main function, we had given a call to the print function, which means that the print function was invoked on line number 8. Subsequently, our print function was executed, and within the print function, we had the line fmt.println s. What is s? S is the argument passed in to the function. So this string that we passed here would be copied into the variable s, and the value of s will be printed on line number 12. Now, please make note of the fact that a function is capable of taking more than one arguments. So suppose I change the signature of this function from just taking one argument to two arguments, let's call it R, and also of type string. Then while calling it, I simply have to supply two strings. Let's call this one another string. And inside this function, I will print both of the strings S and R. When I try to run this, yes, we see the output hello from function and then another string. And pardon me, I made a small error here. All right. Now you might have noticed that we are using two arguments which are of the same type, that is the type string. In such a case, we do not need to specify the type of the argument multiple times. Instead, we could simply specify the argument type ahead of the last argument of that type. So if I remove string from here, then the Go compiler will infer that both S and R are of type string. So if I go ahead and run this program, we see that it runs just as correctly as before. The next concept we will discuss is that of pass by value and pass by reference, and for that I will just restructure the code a little bit. All right, so what do we have here? We have a main function which declares a string called sm and sets it equal to the string hello. Then this function prints the value of that string and then passes the string to a function called pass by value. The pass by value function changes the value of the string it receives, prints it, and then we head on over back to the main function, which prints again the value of the string sm. So what happens when we try to run this program? Well, we see that for the print statement on line number 9, the value of sm is equal to hello. Then we see that the value of the string sf within the function pass by value is changed in function. And when the control comes back to the main function, the value of sm still stays hello. And what this shows us is that the value which we passed to the function pass by value was copied into a new variable. And when we changed the value of that new variable, the original value or the original variable which was passed to the pass by value function remained unchanged. Now let me try to declare another function here. This function is called pass by reference, and instead of a string, it accepts a pointer to a string. It tries to change the value of the string as we saw in the pass by value function and then prints the value of the string that it just changed. Okay, so I will call this function within my main function, and since this accepts a pointer, the argument I will give will be address of or ampersand sm. Let's try to run this program and see what happens. Well, there you go. The first time we print the value of sm in main, the value is hello. But after that, instead of passing a copy of the variable sm to the pass by reference function, we passed it the address of the variable sm itself. And because of that, when we change the value of that string within the pass by reference function, that change was also reflected within the main function after completing the call to the pass by reference function. And that is the difference between a pass by value and a pass by reference. Also remember that in Go, slices and maps are always passed by reference. So we don't have to explicitly specify that we are passing address, but even if we pass any variables which are of type maps as well as slices, they will always be passed by reference. Whereas on the other hand, arrays and structs are passed by value. So there you have to explicitly specify that their address if you want them to be passed by reference. Pass by value is useful where you do not want side effects on the values that you are passing to a function. Whereas pass by reference is a little bit faster, or you can say effective, because there is no copying of values going on. Next, let us see the concept of variadic parameters. Now, let us suppose I want to find the sum of a few numbers, but I do not know how many numbers might be supplied to me. In this case, we have 4. Suppose we might have 5, then we might have 6, then we might have 7, and we might have any number of numbers. We are not aware of that at the starting. In such a case, having variadic parameters can be very useful for us. So here we see that sum is being called with these many arguments. So how do we receive these arguments within the sum function? Let us simply declare a variable called values, and let us specify that this variable values is a variadic parameter, which means that it can hold any number of values. For doing that, I will use the triple dot operator, and then I will specify the type of values which this variadic parameter is supposed to hold, and in this case that will be int. Now notice that this variadic parameter values is nothing but a slice of type integer, but this is the syntax that we have to follow to make use of the advantage of variadic parameters. So in the interest of time, I will simply paste some code here. I'll format this and then I will go ahead and run this code. So we can see that the function sum is being called from the function main, and in the very first line, it prints the value as well as the type of the variadic parameter that it receives. So we can see that the value is a slice containing the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as we just passed it from main, and the type of this parameter is a slice of integer as I just told you. Next, we are simply running a for range loop to be able to sum all of these values and printing those values right here. Now, sometimes it might be the case that a function would want to return a certain value to the function from where it was called. Let us now quickly see how do we declare functions which return some values. How do we return values from a function, and how do we receive and use these values in the caller function? So to specify a function which returns a certain value, we simply have to specify the type of that value ahead of these round braces. Now suppose this function returns the sum which is of type integer, we would simply say int over here. And this will constitute the return type of this function. This also tells the compiler that this function will return only a single value of type integer. Next, instead of printing this value here, let me cut the statement and let me simply say return total. Here, when I call this function, I will store this return value into a variable called s, and then I will go on to a new line and print the value of s. So let's try to run this program. And yes, I see it works the same way. This function accepts these many arguments, calculates the total, returns it, the value gets stored in S, and then it gets printed. Now, it's a very common scenario in programming to want to be able to return more than one values from a function. All of the mainstream languages such as Java, C, C++, Python, and many more will not allow us to do that. But Go allows us to return more than one return value. So let us see how we do that. Suppose along with our sum from the sum function, we also want to return the average. So firstly, let me change the name of this function to something which is more appropriate for that use case. And let me tell the compiler that the sum and average function will be returning two values instead of a single value. Now, typically average would be a float value, but just for sake of simplicity, I'm keeping it as an integer. So here, the compiler will know that the sum and average function returns two values, and both of them are of type integer. Along with the total, let me say total divided by the length of values. And right here, I can receive the average in a second variable. Let me call it a. So the first return value will get stored in S, whereas the second return value will get stored in A. Along with that, let me write another print statement to print the average as well, avg, and I will change the S to an A. So let me go ahead and try to run this program. And when I click run, I see that along with the sum, we also have the average of the values we pass into the sum and average function. And trust me on this is one of Go's most helpful and most useful features. It makes our lives as developers really, really easy and better. So that is going to be it for this video, guys. Let us quickly review what are the things that we learned in this short video. So we learned what is a function, and we learned about the main function in Go. We learned how do we write our own functions. We learned how do we pass arguments to functions. We learned what is passed by a value and what is passed by a reference. We learned how do we pass a variable number of arguments to functions. We learned how do we return values from a function and how do we return multiple values from within a function in Go. In our future videos, we will learn about anonymous functions as well as methods in Go. In the meantime, all of the code that we saw in our examples has been updated in this GitHub repository ae.aro/learninggo, the file name being functions.go. So please do check it out as well. So if you found the content of the video helpful, please do hit the like button. If you find the content of my channel helpful, please click subscribe. You can hit the bell icon to never miss any new updates, and I'll see you very soon in a brand new tutorial. Like always, thanks a lot for watching, guys.